The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of King Herod, behold, magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising, and we've come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea." And thus it has been written through the prophet, "And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the magi secretly, and ascertained from them the time of the star's appearance. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for the child. When you've found him, bring me word, that I may go and do him homage." After their audience with the king, they set out. And behold, the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them, until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star. And on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then, opening their gifts, offered him gifts of frankincense, gold, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way.
The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Well, what does Epiphany mean? As you know, Epiphany means revelation. It means manifestation. It means manifestation or direction for our search. And interestingly enough, the scriptures imply it's a search that all of us must make. Luke, in his gospel, has the poor searching in the form of shepherds. Matthew, in his gospel, has the learned and rich searching in the form of the magi, the wise men. And so the message is that there is room for everyone in this search, from no degrees to PhDs. From shepherds to executives, and so to the magi. They are three searchers who did not find the answer to life in their horoscopes. They took rather a long and difficult journey to another country in search of Christ. Now, we're used to this story. We've heard it since we were quite small. But you have to appreciate the decision that they made. And to help us appreciate the decision, the gospel gives us two sets of wise men. for contrast. The first set are ones we call the magi. They have been given those lovely medieval names, Gaspar, Melchior, and Balthazar. But there's a second group of wise men, the ones that Herod called in, the scribes and the Pharisees and the chief priests. And Herod says, I've got a problem here. And when you've got a problem, you call in the experts. And so Herod gathered the wise men, the Pharisees and scribes, and said, they talk of a birth of a Messiah, and I want to know where he is to be born. And so these wise men, of course, came with the answer. They said, in Bethlehem of Judea. But that's all we ever hear from them again, except when this story is told. We never hear from Herod's wise men again on this question. Why? Because unlike the magi, their hearts did not follow their heads. They gave lip service and head service, but there was no follow-through. And we all do that. We say to ourselves, well, I really should be kinder and more forgiving. Someday. Life is fundamentally about relationships and not possessions. I've got to remember that someday. So this first group of wise men, the scribes and the Pharisees, stay aloof from life, from risk. And there was a risk. Because after all, suppose that they had gone on the journey and had found the Messiah. What changes would they have made in their own lives? And so they thought it was better to talk about it all than to do something about it. And then we have the Magi who took the risk. And it was a risk. There is the risk of inquiry. Who knew what they might learn? The risk of the journey. Who knew what they might meet or whom they might meet? And the risk of the search. Who knew what they might find? Or better still, whom they might find. That's the risk of the journey. And that's why the gospel is very challenging. It's not just a pretty story that conjures up in our minds Oriental kings floating over the desert sands on the way to Bethlehem. The gospel is really saying something to us, and that basically is a challenge. We're asked to choose between two types of wise men. Those who play it safe and those who take the risk. Those who sit around and talk about it and those who do something about it. And so that's why there is a question that is hooked into this gospel. This gospel about the wise men. And the question is, what about you and me? Where do we fit in this gospel on this Epiphany feast? Well, I think the first thing that we must recognize is that we are part of a community. We're part of a church. We're part of a caravan, if you will. And there's great wisdom in that recognition. Because you should be reminded that you're showing being part of that caravan because there is no place on this earth where one can really journey alone. We need each other. We need each other's guidance. We need each other's balance. and we need each other's encouragement. And second, the idea that we're on a common journey also helps us realize that we're in different places on this journey. Some of us are way up front. Some of us are in the rear. Some of us are willing. Some of us are foot dragging. Some of us journey with great certainty. They've found Jesus. They've looked into the face of Messiah. Others journey with great doubt. They're still trying to struggle with the fundamental questions of sickness and death and hurt and broken relationships and all those things that say that there can't be a God if God is the one who allows babies to be born with deformity or cancer or some other incurable sickness. We have those who are veteran seekers and those who are just newcomers to the caravan. I do not think that it's important where we are in the caravan. I just think it's important that we are journeying at all, which means that at least we're responding to the gospel. We're taking a risk. And I think that's the best part of the Feast of the Epiphany. And it's the best part of this caravan we call community. Because those among us who are vigorous can support those of us who are tired or just plain discouraged. And I see that all the time. And those of us who are so certain can encourage those who are struggling with doubt about faith, about God, about life, about love. And those who are devout can be assigned to those of us who are tepid and lukewarm. And those who are young and enthusiastic can be a signal of hope to those for whom the journey has been long and difficult. So to me, Epiphany is a feast of hope. You give me courage as I hope I do you. You encourage my faith where I am weak, and vice versa. We look around our caravan, and we have children, we have octogenarians, we have teenagers, we have students, we have laborers, we have executives. We have people whose relationships are whole, and other people whose relationships are fractured. We have people of great virtue and people of great vice. No matter, you're part of the caravan. You're part of this journeying. This Epiphany time, manifestation time, revelation time, is one to acknowledge. And just by that fact, let me give you Epiphany's promise. Wherever you are in this caravan, we will, every one of us, reach the goal of the journey. And that goal is that we too, like the magi, one day will look into the face of the Messiah.